This was a triumph. I'm making a note here. Huge success. Hello, I am the roninpawn. Is YouTube's claim system illegal? Maybe. So this is a weird one, generally. Don't usually make videos like, well, maybe once every 6 months or so. But this is odd to me because it's actually coming from a good thing that YouTube did recently, and here I am making a video about, are their practices criminal or not? So the good thing YouTube did recently is they directly reached out to me and asked me for my opinions about things. What? Hi, roninpawn. The YouTube community outreach team regularly reaches out to users who may not otherwise get an opportunity to share their thoughts with us. We're reaching out to you because members of the community were concerned about some of the comments you've posted on YouTube. Now we know. We'd like to hear about your experience. Please take a moment to complete our survey and share your thoughts. We're here to listen. Well, I've been on YouTube for, 7 years or something, like 1,400 videos published. Never asked me before, so this came as a surprise. Tell us about your experience. In brief, the platform's stronger push toward censorship, rejecting my thumbnails for vaguely insinuative cartoon imagery by a set of standards nowhere near an appropriate high bar that seeks to protect artistic expression, deleting my own comments from my own videos when they serve to critique YouTube's censor first, consider free expression later policies, and of course the platform's long-standing set of systems that provide no corrective recourse to creators when YouTube's automated systems and representatives make errors and overstep reasonable boundaries toward that censorship. Additionally, I have rebutted around a dozen claims for use of the same piece of public domain music from the same claimant, CD Baby, in 3 months. Yet after winning the same fight the first 6 times, nothing changes to prevent them from entering the same claim on a new piece of media that contains the same public domain music. Why would I be happy with YouTube as a media platform in 2021? So I'm a little vitriolic. What do you expect? Hi, roninpawn. I hope this email finds you in good health. My name is Scott, and I'm reaching out on behalf of blah, 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 etc., and so on. Well, it's understandable to have your doubts. I want to underscore that we aim for neutrality and value our commitment to openness and sharing of diverse perspectives as long as it abides by our community guidelines. Follow the link. At the same time, as safety is a top priority, it's extremely important for us as a YouTube community to find the right balance between free expression and responsibility. We want to be inclusive and ensure that diverse perspectives, experiences, and voices are represented while keeping the larger ecosystem safe. I'd like to emphasize that our goal is not to show any sort of bias toward any creator in our community, and although we remove content that violates our community guidelines, we understand that we are by no means perfect, which is why the creator has the opportunity to file an appeal. Follow the link. Now, just so you know, YouTube, that file and appeal link doesn't always work, does it? I've clicked the old file and appeal link many a time when my thumbnails have been discarded by automated systems, only to find that it tells me, there's nobody around right now to do that job, so, guess you're on your own. Peace! In regard to copyright, YouTube cannot advise on these legal exceptions or any legal matters, and we cannot mediate copyright disputes. The ultimate resolution usually needs to be worked out between the uploader and claimant, sometimes in court. However, YouTube may get involved if we received invalid or abusive copyright takedown requests. Would a dozen claims from CD Baby over the exact same material that's in the public domain qualify as abusive? Thank you for taking the time to share your voice with us. This is exactly the type of feedback we blah, 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 and so forth and so on. Now, as much as I may present as belittling this and that sort of a thing, this is huge. This is a big deal. I can't believe that YouTube is out there actually asking people. I mean, apparently all you have to do is, like, make a whole bunch of comments and things in places, and then people complain and go, what the hell? And then you get hurt. But they are reaching out. I consider this to be a relatively positive thing that they're reaching out, and I appreciate Scott. In fact, in my reply, I appreciate your reply and this overall community outreach measure. As to the protection of creative expression versus the desire to maintain a safe platform ecosystem, I can only say that I understand the need to strike a balance, but find that YouTube has overcorrected. I have major concerns for how this global platform, enabling the most open and accessible form of public communication in the history of mankind, seems to side strongly on the kid-friendly side of things, especially in the wake of the COPPA ruling. Nudity in thumbnails is one thing, but I've had my art, which is what I consider it when I sit down to graphically design a thumbnail, censored repeatedly without contextual review for something as benign as a player icon in Nintendo's Tetris 99 pointing at a cartoon illustration of a butt. I live in a world where heavy metal, or metal hurlant, I apologize, France, is a glorious example of 70s illustration representing a pushback against cultural censorship and, in its own medium, a glowing example of high art. Could I use imagery from Metal Hurlant's pages or the heavy metal film in a thumbnail on YouTube, even if I black bar censored the cartoon nudity? Probably not. I'd have to choose carefully anyway, because of YouTube's seemingly puritanical position when it comes to what is and is not appropriate. I have watched as giant YouTube partners like Game Grumps have gone from opening their videos shouting ludicrous stream of consciousness phrases like "Bienvenue, power bottoms!" to watching them coyly and self-consciously avoid conversational profanity for the first 60 seconds of every video. Yet, George Carlin, recognized near universally as one of the greatest comedians ever to grace the stage of the art, is most remembered in the pages of history for his 7 Dirty Words skit, a comedy set for which he served jail time, fighting cultural normative censorship as Lenny Bruce had before him for the freedom to ply art and speak in the language of real people. Could I, or Game Grumps, some 50 years past Carlin sitting in a jail cell to liberate the right, say, "Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits" on YouTube? Probably. Would it be instantly demonetized by an automated system that's been told what YouTube think the dirty words sound like, and without any review of the context? Definitely. What may seem to some like subtle and reasonable restrictions on speech degrade art and communication, make broad implicit statements to all viewers of how language is to be used, and irrecoverably corrupt the energy of skilled and practiced performers. YouTube doesn't stop them from performing their art, but if they need to pay a staff of employees of a business homegrown on YouTube's soil— hi, Aaron and Danny. Love the show. They must make the decision of whether to fire people as their content is demonetized or abide YouTube's unilaterally chosen, in my view, puritanical interpretation of the term commercially viable. This changes not only the art, the energy, and the methods of public discourse, but it changes what content even gets produced in the first place. It restructures this globally public conversation by stifling it before it can even begin. If the creator relies on this income, and YouTube has shown it sure doesn't like people making those videos, well, maybe I'll just do another vapid top 10 list video with B-roll stock footage beneath a voiceover reading copy-pasted text from the Wikipedia article. Algorithm loves that shit. As to copyright, and much more briefly— it's not gonna be brief. I'll say that YouTube's claim system is not a legal system. It is an internal system operating based on contractual agreements with partners and CMS holders. Content management system. YouTube both can and does mediate copyright disputes by nature of the claim system it maintains, which it maintains well outside the conventions of the DMCA and accepted copyright practices. For example, I am provided with a non-identifying generic name of an amorphous corporate entity's CMS account, and told they claim my content is theirs. YouTube's claim system immediately rewards them with my copyrights exclusively on the claim. YouTube literally takes my income from my content and gives it to a third-party claimant the moment they, or an automated system, even worse, files a claim. This has nothing to do with DMCA provisions, except that it may be illegal according to them. YouTube then requires me to rebut and explain why my content is my content, while the claimant has never spoken a word to affirm the reasoning behind their claim. YouTube demands that I sign with my legal name as though this is a legal document, despite that YouTube provides me with no identifying information of the claimant beyond the CMS account title, which I've seen represented as generically as UMG. Universal Music Group, by the way. Again, this does not nearly muster the snuff to claim itself a legal action. Furthermore, after I rebut a claim, the claimant fails to respond within the allotted period, or agrees that the claim is wrong, or my rights are upheld by actual YouTube mediative review— see, you do mediate copyright disputes— Nothing in YouTube's own privately operated, independently overseen automated match system is updated, meaning my next video that uses the same material I've just proven is in the public domain will again be automatically claimed, asserted, my copyrights removed, and I will have to fight this whole system again. To be clear, I will have to fight YouTube's privately operated, non-judicial, non-DMCA related system again. YouTube's internal claims system does not provide legally identifiable information to the claimee, does not require the claimant to provide any written or reviewable argument supporting their claim to the platform or the claimee, removes not just the claimee's rights of copy without review, but redirects their personal finances to the claimant until or unless they rebut, and ignores both the explicit acknowledgments of the claimant as well as the results of deadline expiration when issues close, allowing the same claim to be made against the same content indefinitely across the platform, even in instances where a claimed work is found to exist in the public domain. This anormal, preferential, and quite likely illegal private system of copyright abuse changes the public discourse on the platform. A seasoned channel owner must necessarily consider whether they bother making certain content at all, knowing the headache of unsubstantiated, unsupported claims they can expect. And if they choose to make the content, they will necessarily consider how to twist, deform, and skew that content, not to assure that they're in line with fair use standards, which they should already be doing, but to try to avoid the copyright abuse and harassment that YouTube has perpetually enabled in support of media conglomerates holding CMS accounts platform-wide. YouTube cannot claim that they are not mediating, just trying to stay out of it, or modeling their internal systems after the DMCA or generally accepted copyright standards, as they are mediating, both literally and figuratively, are giving an undeniable level of power and preference to CMS holding claimants, and have ignored every functionally critical portion of the DMCA and copyright law in the creation of their private claims system. Guess I couldn't do it much more briefly. Sorry, Scott. Nonetheless, I do appreciate the outreach and hope to see more of these direct contact efforts from YouTube in future. Thank you, Sir Scott of Scottingham. Something I always note in corporate interactions is that you only get first names, Wouldn't want to be able to actually, track someone down internally if they hadn't done their job right, would you? You don't gotta dox them, it's just a customer ID number or something. Thank you so much, YouTube, for actually contacting me. Never done it before, and good. Keep doing that. Keep reaching out to people. The feedback you get is invaluable. But to return to the title of this video and to go completely off script, as I don't have a script, I was just reading emails over there. Is YouTube's claim system illegal? Probably not. Probably not in the sense that illegal would mean that there's something criminal about it, that they can be prosecuted for something. Is it actionable? Yeah. Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. There's probably nothing in federal legislation that would make their actions criminal. But in terms of contractual disputes amongst private entities, I don't see that there's any interpreting what YouTube has in its claim system as not being rife for... what the hell's the word? Rife for class action. Let's go back. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. Let's go back. Back to the good old days of YouTube, and also the bad old days of YouTube, because depending on what side you were on, it was one or the other. Back in the day, YouTube's front page would very often see things like 50-second clips of the funniest thing that happened on Family Guy last night. Is it coming from Fox? No, it's coming from, butt sex 19923. It came from somebody. So YouTube had that problem of having basically a fully automated system without any personal on-the-ground human-level review, where people just upload anything and then it's there. And then their automated systems would say, oh, people are watching this a lot, let's put it on the front page. And then you get people watching Family Guy on the front page of YouTube. And then you get Fox saying, we're gonna sue you. What the hell are you doing? The position of large corporate media holders and YouTube was an animus one, as everyone was trying to figure out where they stood in the marketplace and how they were going to deal with this new platform where anybody could put anything on the internet at any time that they wanted to. And YouTube was in a bad position, a harshly undefensible position from lawsuits. They had this platform, people are just throwing stuff up there, it's monetized and there's ad revenue involved, and if your Fox and Family Guy is on there, and that means that people don't have to actually watch Family Guy, they can watch it on YouTube, they don't have to tune into Fox and go through their advertisers. These are legitimate, like, copyright issues that are impacting people's ability to make a living off of content that everybody's working pretty damn hard on. So basically, YouTube at any point in this era could have been sued by, I don't know, 36 different entities and put out of business. Whether those entities won lawsuits or lost lawsuits, and honestly, they probably would have won them back then. In the course of a 7-year-long, drawn-out legal battle over the right of YouTube to exist as a platform, it would have just died. And so, in an attempt to appease the masters of the great media holders, Disney, Universal Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, they had to do something. They created this claim system, and everything about the claim system is built from the perspective of a big media house. It assumes that what's going to be claimed here is, you know, a clip of Family Guy on the front page. It assumes that a big company is going to come in and say, hey, they stole that from me and it's ours, and if you're going to monetize it, then we need to get the money, and it's all set up to facilitate that without any consideration for what that system would become. Because what it has become, and what it was from very early when the system emerged, is a way for big houses that just own this licensing right and the copyrights over other content, or claim to anyway, think they do, to just come in and say, it's got 8 seconds of something that is ours here. We're not considering whether it's fair use or not. We're not considering anything. There's an automated system that detects that our song plays in this video, which means this whole video is ours. Give us the money now. And as I said in that email, the way this system works from a content creator's perspective is that they click a button and then my content, my copyrights are theirs. My money is not just my copyrights, but like my income is now right going over to them until I rebut it. I don't even have the name of the people who are claiming it against me because YouTube's system basically just lets them put in an acronym. It's not the full name of the legal entity that's coming against you. It's not an address. It's not a phone number. It's not a contact. I have seen it as SME, UMG. Who's claiming against me? These letters. Have you ever seen these in the alphabet before? Back in the day, I'd spend 20, 30 minutes trying to figure out who is actually claiming this content against me and find out it's some Israeli CD packaging company who claims to hold the rights to something, something, something. And at the same time, usually, if it was that Israeli CD packaging company, it was also Universal Music Group and like 7 other of these random acronyms. And the reason it was UMG and 7 of these other acronyms, all of these acronyms are subsidiaries of UMG. If you got hit by one, you could get hit by 7 or 8 more of them. And when you track them all down, you find out this one is owned by that one, 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 is owned by Sony Music Entertainment. So you get this notice, a claim has been filed against you by, PQD, whoever they are. You have to go in and you have to rebut that claim. And in order for you to rebut that claim, you have to select from a list of what are what are your excuses for this? Is it in the public domain? Is it fair use? And they put in some excuses there that are like, if you click on them, then the system just says, that's not an excuse, screw you. Then you fill out your explanation for why your content is your content. And then, at the very bottom, you have to sign with your legal name. At least that's what they tell you to do. I have started signing them with "go fuck yourselves," and it doesn't seem to have affected the process. I mean, unless them sending me these emails is the result of me signing them "go fuck yourselves." That's possible. Then there is a period in which the big corporate, I don't even know who this person is who's claiming against me, can respond. And their response comes in the form of a detailed and expansive, just extensive, very, very specific clicking of another button, and they've rebutted it. And it's overturned. No explanation from them at any point during this process, just from me. And then, if the content creator comes back and finds that they've dismissed your original rebuttal, then you have another chance to write another paragraph or 12 and send that off to the corporate entity, who is almost certainly not actually even reading what you wrote, but just clicking the button because they can to claim it again. You write your second response, you sign it again legally, and you send it off. And this time, if they want to rebut it, they have to file a copyright strike against you. And a copyright strike is actually a DMCA action. To be clear, the copyright strike is an internal YouTube action. It has nothing to do with the DMCA, except that the internal copyright strike is attached to the DMCA action. So because they're filing a DMCA action, you get a copyright strike. And now you're in DMCA land. YouTube has no authority in this process. There are very strict federal guidelines on what has to happen if YouTube wants to retain its indemnity from further legal proceedings, if they don't want to get sued. YouTube, throughout the years, has asserted time and time again that their internal systems are all based on the DMCA, that they're based on the overwhelming copyright standards of, all of the countries of the world, because they're not just a US company, they have to deal everywhere. This is, what's the word? Hang on, it's, bullshit. Internally, and the reason why YouTube is very open for class action lawsuit over maintaining these systems for the better portion of a decade now, is that they are making a decision, number one, to give one out of two parties an immense amount of power and clout. By uploading my video to the platform, I am implicitly already making a statement that this is my content. Unique, original, these are my copyrights, wouldn't put it here if it wasn't. Then someone else comes along and says, nope, that's my content, by virtue of clicking a button. They have no need of providing me with any sort of an explanation, so I don't know what the hell that they're talking about necessarily. But YouTube systems do now, as they always have done, assume that that person's claim is immediately valid. And this has, again, nothing to do with the DMCA when they then take your revenue from your video, that's your copyright, and immediately send it over in the direction of this claimant. The DMCA provides for the basic circumstance of somebody has submitted a piece of content that someone else claims is theirs. And when that person makes that claim, the content gets taken down immediately, the person who submitted originally is contacted, and that original entity can then either say, oh yeah, I guess that wasn't my content, or they can say, no, you're wrong. At which point, if they say, no, you're wrong, the original submitter has a certain number of days to sue you in federal court, which is expensive, or let the issue drop. And if they let the issue drop, then the content goes back up and it stays up in perpetuity. And if that claimant files another claim against your content on the platform for the same reason, it stays up. They need to sue you now. They have to go to court and prove something, as opposed to just telling some random platform, no, but it's mine. YouTube's system goes way outside of this concept and delivers monetary revenue that's supposed to go to the person who was uploading the content, to the person who's come along and without any explanation, without having to provide their name, their address, their phone number, contact information, who they are, that entity immediately receives the revenue and the copyrights of the person who uploaded it. And that is well beyond reason. It was only until a year, maybe two ago, that YouTube actually refined this system, because it used to be, oh my God, what it used to be. Used to be that they would claim it, and then they'd immediately get the revenue. If you disputed it and won the dispute later, that revenue was just gone. It was just gone. There's no getting that money back. It's you don't get it, maybe they don't get it, maybe nobody, YouTube just keeps it. So you could use this system to harass and abuse content creators and steal their money in the first few days of something going up, and in fact, hold that claim open for a very long time, because this is how YouTube's internal system processed it. They click the button, then you rebut, and then that entity that claimed had like a month or two rebut your rebuttal and hold on to it, which would then reset the cycle and go for another length of time, in which period you have no ability to make money off of your own content. They could basically harass you into bankruptcy. It's only in the past year or two that YouTube updated these systems to include an escrow account. So now, when someone makes a claim against your content and you rebut it, the money goes into, just empty dead space, and it's collected and the ads are still shown, and then whoever wins the dispute at the end gets to claim the money that's in the escrow. A decidedly much better system that is still well outside any claim that this has something to do with DMCA or the regular operations of copyright law in the United States, Europe, or any other nation on the planet. Now, there's a case, Lens versus UMG, Lens versus Universal Music Group. Look this up if you're interested, because it's damned interesting. In which the courts found one of these CMS account holders on YouTube in enacting a DMCA claim must have actually reviewed the content at some point. They must have actually considered whether or not this usage falls under fair use. The reason that they made that decision is because they usually don't. CMS holders in these big media houses use YouTube's automated systems where they can just click a button and take your revenue, and they click the button. And then you go through the whole process. Here's my signature and here's my explanation that they never had to do. They get the rebuttal and they don't read it and they click the button. In some instances, they have scripts running that just when they get that email, it automatically clicks the button and goes on with its life. The courts found in an extremely drawn-out and expensive battle that most YouTube content creators couldn't have fought on their own, that, hey, if you're going to initiate a DMCA action, you have to actually, have looked at whether you should initiate a DMCA action or not. Now, sadly, that exists in the world of DMCA, and YouTube systems are not DMCA and have nothing to do with DMCA and are not, as YouTube loves to claim, modeled after the DMCA. And yet, that legal precedent set about DMCA is highly relevant to the forthcoming class action lawsuits. Because YouTube, in creating these systems, has built a system of harassment and abuse where people can literally deprive money to content creators, can over and over again claim content that exists in the public domain, that YouTube's own internal systems have already found exists in the public domain, that sometimes the original claimant has actually acknowledged in their response to the claim is in the public domain, but it doesn't get removed from the automatic claim system. There is no update. It's just abuse and harassment over and over and over and over again. And it's automated. They don't even have to do it because YouTube makes matches for them, sends them emails. There's absolutely no penalty to just clicking the button and saying, yeah, it's ours, even if you didn't look at it. And then after the content creator explains why it's theirs and puts their legal name on a document that doesn't tell them who's actually claiming against them, then there's no penalty for them to just click the button again without even reading what you wrote and say, no, it is ours. And then, after it's been found by all of the systems to be in the public domain, and you finally won that battle, you create a new video and use that same piece of music that is in the public domain in that video, and what happens? It's caught by the automatic system again. Claimed again. Now, if this isn't stifling art and expression, then I don't know what is. YouTube's systems have made a system where if CD Baby claims the U.S. Army blues band Boogaloo, even though it is the most public domain music that you could possibly find, because it is written, composed, and performed by a U.S. military band in service of the United States public. There is no doubt. There is no room for interpretation. This is as public domain as it gets, baby. If CD Baby asserts but over and again that it's theirs, are you going to keep using it in your videos? Because, every one of them, you got to fight them over it. And for me, the answer is yes, because fuck you, motherfuckers. But I'm saying what ends up happening creatively and expressively and in terms of communication across YouTube because of these systems is that content creators learn which things that they can use and which things that they can't use, not by anything legal, not by fair use or public domain. They can't use that because someone has a false claim on it in the system, and it will never, ever be resolved by YouTube or by the person who holds it. Because to the person who holds it, to CD Baby, well, that's pennies in the bank. Every video out there that uses that music, a lot of creators don't know the ins and outs of legal, and they're not going to fight it. They just don't want to have to deal with it. They don't know what their rights are. They don't know what their rights aren't. They don't want to deal with it. They're afraid of getting strikes. This is money in our pockets. We can just throw out these blanket claims on things that are definitely not our copyrights and make lots of money. So, why should we ever stop? So I say that YouTube, in maintaining these systems, is open for class action lawsuits in a way that they really don't want to be open for class action lawsuits, like a decade's worth of copyright abuse and harassment enabled by their internal systems that were definitely not modeled after what makes sense for copyright, but were modeled after what can we do to make UMG and SME not sue the shit out of us. And I say that without a shade of concern for what the text of YouTube's contracts with creators are. Because the idea that you can maintain a system that abuses and harasses copyright holders internally because you wrote it in a contract or you tried to make it so that you have the right to do it, that's not the kind of thing that the courts tend to uphold. They like to sell you the idea that a contract is a contract and it doesn't matter. And fair enough, at the base of contract law is the premise that any private individual can enter into any contract with any other private individual, no matter how unfair or one-sided that contract is. That's your right, and if you want to be stupid, go ahead. But historically, when you've got a class of tens, hundreds of millions of people who have been abused, harassed, and defrauded, the courts tend to reinterpret those contracts or just throw them out. Literally, if contract law were immutable, then pyramid schemes would be just flourishing right now. There is definitely a point at which the courts say, I don't care the text of your language in your contract, this ain't right. They've done it with employee-contractor relationships. Big businesses love to get people on as contractors, even though they're really employees, because then they don't have the same legal responsibilities. And the courts say, yeah, that's cute. Get the fuck out of here. And pay this man's health care bill as you go, because he was an employee. We're talking about tens and hundreds of millions of citizens per country who each have tens, hundreds, and sometimes thousands of monetized works on the platform. And the systemic abuse and harassment is so far above and beyond what any could consider reasonable or accidental or an oversight that really all it takes is one good law firm who's willing to stake in for 6 or 7 years to fight it out and come out with billion-dollar settlements on behalf of everyone who has monetized content on YouTube. Is how I see it anyway. Roninpawn, Esquire, except not, because that's legally you can get in trouble for saying, I'm not a lawyer. And this is not legal advice. Wait a second, if I'm not a lawyer, I can give as much legal advice. This is legal advice. So to answer my own question as posed by the title of this video, is YouTube's claim system illegal? Yeah. I mean, no, because the federal, it's not like criminal or anything, but yeah, in terms of like private lawsuits, like you could sue, like somebody needs to, if somebody sues them, big, just a law firm that can get a lot of investment, I don't see how you lose it, and you'll be fighting for the rights of all the people who got screwed over by the big monopolies and the conglomerates as well as YouTube. I'm sorry, what, we need to go? Wait, I'm still talking here, I have things to say. Why won't you listen to me?